Gateway Board of School Directors regular board meeting for Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Bonnie.
Mr. Bova.
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Here.
Mr. Gottman.
Present.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Present.
Mrs. Neely.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mrs. Warning.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Did anybody sign up to speak on agenda items, Bonnie?
No one signed up in advance.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on agenda items? No. Oh, that was a yes from Mr. Moore. All right, let's move on to Section A, minutes of previously held meetings. Resolved, Gateway School Board of Directors approved the minutes of the following previously held meetings: June 11th, study session; June 18th, regular board meeting; June 23rd, special board meeting. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions on the minutes?
Discussion, please?
Sure.
Yeah, on the resolutions section presented by board members, the motion was made by Mr. Lapsevich, not Mr. McIntyre, to nominate someone to the school board. And I sent a note to Bonnie so that she can make that correction. Also, someone's last name was not recorded. I found the last name and I sent that to you as well, and I found a typo.
Oh, okay.
All those are in your inbox.
Okay, I would appreciate that information. Thank you.
Anybody else? We'll vote to approve the minutes with the exception of those changes that we handled too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mrs. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Section B, financial reports.
I get to do double
Mr. Shaw is
duty.
not here this evening, sorry.
Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approve Section B.1 list of bills and B.2 monthly financial statements as listed in Section B at the Tuesday, August 20th, 2019 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Neely. When you're ready, Bonnie?
Okay, I'm ready. Yes. Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mrs. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye. Section C is items previously tabled. We have none, so we'll move to Section D, personnel agenda. Mrs. Crum.
Thank you very much. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 4 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. Under resignations, we have 3 listed. Leave of absence, 3. We have 8 transfers per the collective bargaining agreement. Under employment, we did have another addition of a long-term substitute for Cleveland Stewart Elementary. A part-time staff nurse, we had a resignation, and so this will be our person who will be starting within the next 2 weeks. Substitute food service worker, paraprofessional, and a contract renewal. We also have supplemental contracts for resignation and issuance and volunteers.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? There's a lot of information here. Anyone? Discussion? None.
Thank you very
No
much.
discussion.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mrs. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Let me catch up. Section F, there is no conflicts of interventions. Administrative resolutions.
For us. Number 1, the EduPlanet 21 Curriculum and Professional Development Annual Software Renewal. Number 2 is the Math and Science Collaborative, STEM Learning Partnership. And item number 3 is the Title I Support Services for Non-Publics as listed.
Number 4 is an English Language Starts LLC consultation agreement as depicted in Exhibit C.
Item 5, facility agreements, Premier Performing Arts, USA Swim Meet, hosted by Marlins, PIFAI, Tambourines. Item 5, approval of Title I federal funds regulations for 2019-2020 fiscal year. Item 6, recognition of district booster clubs and support organizations for 2019-20 fiscal year. Item number 7, approval of the Tricod Land Banks notice of intent to acquire future NCST REO properties located in the Gateway School District. Item number 8, resolution of Gateway School District, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. And item number 9, a resolution of the Board of School Directors of Gateway School District, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania.
We do have one item added after the study session. We do have Piper Jaffrey here tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Gentlemen, if you'd like to say something. Yes, it's our time. That is correct, yes. Yes,
So last week during the Building and Grounds Committee meeting, we were discussing the outstanding debt. We were discussing issuing of new bonds for potential renovations. And the subject came up of it might be a good time to look at a bond refinance. So I'll take that. Administration spent the last week looking into that, and that's why we have our guest speakers here from Piper Jaffrey as well as Dyson Associates to kind of introduce the subject matter and answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you. My name's Chris Shelby. I'm with Piper Jaffrey, and I've been here before. I know some of you, and I know I'm new to you, a lot of you. We're here simply, we've been working with the administration over the years and in past financings to see whether or not, or whenever an opportunity arises to refund existing debt of the school district that would result in savings, net savings to the school district. And by that, I truly mean with full transparency that whatever the savings are, they are net of all costs of the refinancing, and they are net to the district. The dollars are actually net. The issue that we're addressing tonight is the series of 2012, which was a $28 million refinancing that was actually done to save money on a 2003 bond issue. So the 2012 refunded your 2003. I'm just checking that. I just want to be sure. Yeah, it advance refunded the series of 2003. So in 2012, you went through the same process, albeit it was with tax-exempt bonds. You issued tax-exempt bonds in 03, and you refunded them because rates were lower in 2012. The 2012 bond issue had not been able to be refunded because rates weren't low enough. And then, about 2 years ago, when the new Tax Reform Act came out through the Trump administration, advanced refundings of bonds like your 2012, which are callable in the year 2022, were outlawed nationally. So you could not issue tax-exempt bonds in advance of the stated call date of a tax-exempt bond issue that was outstanding. And in this case, again, it was 2022, but that right was taken away from Gateway School District as well as every other tax-exempt issuer in the country. So you were kind of left in limbo like a multitude of other issuers across the country. Well, now, to make a long story short, you've all heard what's been going on in the market. Of course, the equity market has been very volatile, but even more volatile has been the bond market and interest rates in the bond market, and the real benchmark bonds that we watch and that would be relevant to you are the 10-year Treasury yield and the 30-year Treasury, but that doesn't apply to you here because your debt is within a 10-year range. So the 10-year Treasury was, it was at 2.75% or even higher over the past year and a half. It's now at approximately 1.55%, almost its lowest in history. The 30-year Treasury bond is at around 2%, which is, again, almost at the lowest rate of history. So with that, albeit you were denied the ability to advance refund and call, do a refunding and call in bonds in advance of the stated call date of 2022 using tax-exempt bonds, we now have taxable rates that have dropped to such levels that they are lower than even what was ever going to be perceived as tax-exempt rates. And the bottom line is that we have a taxable refunding to which you're not restricted as far as calling in advance your outstanding debt. And we've been monitoring it with your administrative offices, with Paul, and keeping him up to date literally over the last 18 months. We do follow these things monthly. And just to give you an idea of where things are, let's see, and I'm going to be speaking fairly recent history, but this is just to indicate the volatility of the market. On August 8th, we did a computation using real market rates that were prevailing in the market at which the school district could actually sell taxable debt. And your savings were $790,000, $790,000 net dollars, net to the school district. It'd be what I'm talking about here is refunding existing debt over the identical period, not increasing an annual payment, not extending the debt. And this is just like with a home mortgage. If you just went to your bank and said, well, I have a 5% mortgage, you can give me a 3%, I can get $38,000 out and keep my payments the same over the identical period, that's great. Well, that's what this scenario is. So just to draw the example, back on August 8th, it was about $790,000. On August 13th, where this market continued, and probably all heard it on the evening news, is the volatility of the stock market, your savings grew to $1 million on a debt service reduction basis, net debt service reduction to the school district, which really equated to about $95,000 per year for the remaining debt. In other words, your payment would be $95,000 less per year. Came to a gross amount of $1,270,000. And if that were winning the lottery and you said, no, give me the cash today, that would have a cash value of $1,088,000. Cash to the district, net of all costs of issuance. So the last run we did was on the 20th of August, and because I wanted to demonstrate some volatility of the market. The last run now provides $1,119,000 of debt service reduction over the life of the bonds. Again, it's still, that equates to about $85,000 per year. You can see it's dropped a little bit. And again, on a cash value basis, if you just wanted to take it as cash and not as a debt service reduction, you'd get a net check for about $950,000. So, and again, net of all estimated costs, and I think our costs are fairly well estimated based on the last issue and issues you've done, just to relate and use the similar costs that you've paid. So what we're here tonight, I guess, is to ask the board if you would like us to proceed with the preparation of a refunding bond issue. We have, by the way, the last bond refunding we did for you, again, was a taxable refunding as well. And that's when you didn't have to do a taxable refunding. Well, you did, because you could only do one advance refunding at that time, and that's more detail than is necessary. But you've done a taxable refunding for savings, and it was the last bond issue we did. But this one, you don't have any choice in terms of using taxable debt. If you don't use taxable bonds, you can't do an advance refunding. But nonetheless, we're in a terribly unique taxable market. Again, extraordinarily unique as it pertains to Treasury rates, which you can all watch now. 10-year rate at 155, and if you look at your paper every day and see where the 10-year Treasury is, if it goes to 160, you're probably going to be down a little bit of money here. If it goes to a 150, you're going to be up a little bit of money. It's that simple now, because your debt only goes out to 2032. So you're really within that 10-year range where that is a true benchmark for you to watch. But nonetheless, the savings do represent 4.4% of the par amount of bonds that you'd be calling in. The benchmark has always been 2%. That is not to say that, oh, 2% will do it for us and we'll go do a deal. But you're at almost 4.5% right now, which is extraordinary, particularly when you're considering the utilization of taxable bonds for refunding. So with that, that's where we are today. It won't be the same a month from now, but I guess what we're saying and suggesting is we're prepared to do the preparation of all the documents. That's at no cost to the district, and that pertains to Piper Jaffray as well as bond counsel. This is just a standard of the industry, and it's the way we always act. But come 20 days from now, approximately, if the market is where, within a range or within a minimum that would satisfy you to achieve this refunding, we would then immediately apply for the bond rating and get you the rating and get you in the market and lock the rates in. And of course, we couldn't come back with anything less than a minimum stated amount of savings that would be dictated tonight.
Wait, let me go, just clarify what you're saying. You're saying it'll take about 20 days to go through the process. Tonight, you're just asking for authorization to start the process at no cost to the district. In the 20 days, you will come back to us with the same or better offer. And at that time, we pull the trigger, and that's when we would be voting to officially refinance the bonds.
We would.
Did I state that correctly?
Almost. No, but really, this is the way we did it last time.
This is important for the
Yeah,
public
sure.
to understand.
I understand.
And the board, because we haven't talked about it other than the Building and Grounds Committee. So
Right.
everybody needs to understand that. So can you just?
Typically, the standard is, and certainly I'll be deferring to Mr. Healy as your bond counsel, but the standard is to set a minimum level of savings that you are agreeable to. And for instance, we have, the last run, we had 1,100,000, you have that in front of you.
So say it's $1 million,
1,119,000.
hypothetically, we say $1 million.
Let's say, yeah, $1 million, or we would even suggest lower. But we have, even with the last issue we did, we always come out, and if there was any reason that you said we went to 750,000 and we came back with 800 and you said, you know what, we've decided that just isn't enough, you're fine. You tell us, you are not going to have a bond issue forced down anyone's throat. It is up to the board and up to your decision. But we are suggesting that you want to protect yourself. We're in a terribly unique market with taxable rates. And, with 4.5% savings, even at 3% savings, and 3% would be of the par amount. When we talk percentages, we're talking of the par amount of bonds being refunded. And in this case, you have 21 million bonds. And so 3% would be 625,000. I'd say 750 or something, if it is to the satisfaction of the board that, yeah, we'll take 750, we won't take anything less, but we'll use this. And it's not like using your one and last advance refunding ability because it's taxable. It doesn't go against you at all. Even if you wanted to do tax exempt debt sometime later this year, you could still do up to 10 million on a bank qualified basis because this doesn't count against your capital raising for the year. So we would just suggest you and advise that you come up with something under this amount which protects you but gives you at least what you'd be satisfied with if the market starts swinging the other way and the whole thing disappears. Right. Because if you just say 1 million,
Yeah.
that could be gone tomorrow. You could be at 980 tomorrow.
Okay.
But you could also be at 1280, and we just suggest giving yourself a little bit more room. It's kind of like being at the casino a bit, and a bit of a gamble, but at the same time you do want to protect yourself and get minimally 3% plus or more savings. I'm not trying to put anything into anybody's head here. I just think, you do want to set some kind of level that will protect yourself in the event we have a slight decline in the market. It's going to take us 2 to 3 weeks to work with Mr. Schott to get all the documents together. And then, at that point in time, we take a look at the market to make sure that we're meeting your minimum or greater. And if that is the case, we will then go and get a rating from Standard & Poor's. Your rating is fantastic, and I don't see any reason why it will change. You have a AA3 rating, your AA category rating. That is fantastic. For a school district in Pennsylvania, you're in a handful of the school districts across Pennsylvania that are
Wait,
in the
what did you
double.
say? Can you say that
Did you
again?
say that a couple of times?
Say that loud and clear into the
I
microphone,
said you have a
please.
long way to go to get into a handful of school districts. No, I'm kidding. You really are. And it really,
The public needs to hear that.
I know, and it's so true. I mean, AA category is, to reach the AA category is what any school district in Pennsylvania would aspire to. I think the US government treasury was downgraded from AAA to AA plus. You're AA3, which is categorically there, but you know, it's there. You're in the AA category, and just to achieve that and maintain it as you have says a lot about the running of the school district. So with that, anyways, I was getting to, at 2-3 weeks down the road, when we have all the documents together, we would then, if we meet your savings, or even if you felt as though the number you set was too low and you wanted more, I mean, nobody's going to do anything without the general consensus and approval of the board at any point in time going forward. But at the same time, we would then apply for the rating. It'd take about a week, and we'd have you in the market as quickly after that as we could. So we're looking at probably about 4 weeks before you'd even be able to go to market from this date on. But the sooner we start that clock, the sooner you'll be at least in a prepared position to go in the market. If it isn't there, it won't be there.
So you'd be prepared to come back either September 10th or 17th, which are 2 September meetings, for us to see where we are and make a final decision?
Or the option is, given the parameters resolution that Mr. Healy will be discussing, you can set that minimum rate tonight and not be tied to having a meeting, to wait for a meeting to prove it, because you will have approved it tonight to go forward
I think
based
some
on a
people-
minimum level.
Some people were concerned about the transparency is that, not giving a lot of public notice for this, but there's obviously understandable reasons why you don't
Yeah,
have a
it's
lot of
just-
notice when you have
We
opportunities
wouldn't be here
like
if the
this.
market wasn't just an anomaly, really. But that's up to the board and up to you. But maybe for further clarification, I can turn it over to Pat
Sure.
and just let him maybe explain a little bit better what I'm saying. And then we'll go from there. We aren't trying to push it one way or another. We just want you to be in as flexible position and in a position to be able to get the savings if they're there, and not be subject to waiting for a board meeting again to have that second approval, which is very standard now, statewide as far as bond issuances go. Okay, thanks.
Good evening. I won't speak to the financials, that's Chris's job, but there are 2 resolutions that were circulated for this evening. The first one is a short one-page that Paul had me do, which is employment of the professionals, which is what you did in 2016, the last time you issued a bond. And it appoints Piper Jaffrey, your underwriter, Bruce Dyson Associates, as your bond counsel, and basically to move forward with the deal, as described by Chris. The second resolution is the thick one, and this is called a parameters resolution. It basically is the resolution that you adopt. It'll be your last act that you need to take as a board in issuing the debt. After this is adopted, and it has it has a hard dollar amount of bonds of not to exceed 25 million, which was a number that Piper gave me. They figured that when they're done sizing it and structuring the deal, it'll be less than 25 million. Can't go over 25 million, obviously. So it was a ballpark number used. It's to fit within the state debt parameters in essence. A lot of this is designed to satisfy parameters in the state law. So not to exceed 25 million. It authorizes the issuance of the debt through the execution of a bond purchase agreement, which is what you've done in the past. bond purchase agreement will have the final numbers, the savings, all the financial items locked in at that point based on the sale of the bonds. And the bond purchase agreement is authorized to be executed and accepted, so it could be turned down, which would be the discussion before they actually sold the bonds. Do you like 4.5%? Do you like 5.5%? Do you like 3.8%? With the president, the vice president, the board secretary. So really it puts the power of the decision to pull the trigger, we're okay, in your hands and anybody else's hands you wish to discuss it with, but it doesn't require waiting for another formal meeting. So this was advertised, again, to fit within the state law, not less than 3 days before tonight's meeting. So legally, you're cleared to adopt this if you so choose. We acted real fast. This came up, as you know, fairly quickly. So rates are volatile and seem to be trending in a good direction. So that's your option: the one-page professional service appointment, and then the larger parameters resolution, which then negates having to convene another board meeting in order to move forward to lock in rates. More flexibility for the school district.
So I would like to open it up for discussion and questions from board members or administration.
Basically, we're not spending any money, we're saving money.
Yes,
Correct.
anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 a year out of our budget simply by refinancing the loans. Roughly $1 million over the term of the loans.
As of tonight.
On page 2, there's a delivery date expenses of $229,000. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. It's an estimated number, but the expenses included in a refunding are typically, and not in any priority or order, would be bond counsel, solicitor, rating of the bonds, printing of the bonds, your paying agent and escrow deposit agent, who is also your paying agent. Anything else?
Just miscellaneous, like QC, numbering of bonds.
And bond discount. And so that's just an estimated number. We have no reason to think it would exceed that. We always try to actually be conservative with that number, but that is all in, and it's just an estimated number until we get there. For instance, the rating agency their fee is based solely on the par amount of bonds that you are going to sell. They don't care what it's for. They do care about rating you, but they don't care after that, other than if you're going to sell $22 million of bonds, then this is your fee. In that case, I'm not even sure what it would be, but it'd probably be around $20-some thousand from Standard & Poor's to rate this bond issue.
They have a ladder of basis, 5 to 10, this is around 10 to 15, this is.
Right.
So,
But all these fees will be very specific once we get through the next 2 or 3 weeks to bring you the bond issue. But again, that number has been netted out of the savings number. That is not something that's going to come out later.
And just so the folks at home understand, some percentage of that goes to Piper Jaffrey, some to Mr. Dyson's.
Right.
Just,
Right.
Folks at home tonight.
oh, they're gonna hear about this somewhere, yeah. Or no one know about this, and we can just do whatever we want.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, I'm joking. Sooner or later, someone's gonna know about this.
Yeah. There's nothing extraordinary there, I assure you. You are well within, you're more than within many bond issues we have seen in many other school districts.
And
Well, if you ever that-
obviously, if we move forward with this tonight, we continue to look at it, pull the trigger, if you will.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the actual number and you come back to us, be it as the whole board or as the leadership and administration.
Right. Absolutely.
If at that time we decide that's not the right number and we don't pull the trigger, as you said, that $230,000
Absolutely, yeah.
goes away, right?
The only thing that you would be incurring, and I'm glad you brought that up, the one fee you would be incurring if we reach that point, and 2 to 3 weeks from now we say, yes, the savings are there, let's get the rating and sell the bonds. If we get the rating because the savings meet the minimum that you set tonight, if you so choose to do so, you will be incurring the cost of the rating. The school district has to incur that cost directly, and Standard & Poor's would actually have you sign that you are incurring that cost when they start, their gears start turning, and they turn fairly quickly once they get going. But again, that could be 20,000, whatever it is, 20, 25,000, that would be a fee incurred by the district. But that's why we say 2 to 3 weeks from now, whenever all the documents are prepared, we take another look at the market, and if it isn't well above whatever minimum you set, we probably won't be applying for a rating. And that we would be discussing with Mr. Schott. Mr. Schott would clearly be discussing it with board members and, you know, making sure, yes, we're gonna go for the rating because here are our savings, or no, here are our savings, they wanna do the rating. No, we don't think it's close enough.
Well, we do have one other option, is that we can always call a special board meeting if people aren't comfortable with that and the timing isn't right. We can call a meeting, just so my colleagues, you know, have that option too. Whatever makes
Well,
sense.
not only that, but if the market is not there,
Right.
if you wait a couple weeks, it may come right back.
Right.
At which time all those fees will, the rating fee will not increase.
Right. Yeah, if you do happen to reach the rating and then suddenly the bottom drops out of the market within 3 days after you get your rating, which is extraordinarily unusual, the rating is yours, and that when the market, if it were to come back, that rating is yours.
How long does that rating
I
last?
think they give you 3 months before they'll charge you a minimal review fee, just because it's extended beyond a quarter period.
So you're saying that, okay, you reach a bond amount, the rating. You're saying once you discuss it, say, okay, like tomorrow, you get this bond rating. How long do you have Mr. Schott to discuss with him and he gets back to us? It's not 3 months.
Oh, no,
Correct.
no.
So that turnaround time
It'll be a day. It'll
it's
be
a day.
that day.
So whatever happens when you find it, he's gonna have to get to us to agree.
Unless,
Yeah, he'll-
unless we agree tonight to say 700,000. If we vote tonight and say, if you guys can get a $700,000 savings or more, do it, then we don't have to have a special meeting. But if people are uncomfortable about not discussing this last week in the study session, another option would be we call a special meeting right away, but it would have to be
I think he
right
suggested
away.
750.
750, thank you.
So Mr. Dyson, what is your firm, just watching what they're doing?
No, we actually participate in 2 different things. I'm local counsel, and there's also bond counsel, Pat. Pat's done, how many bond issues for? Yeah, 4 or 5. He was originally with Cohen and Grigsby, and then he joined my firm. So, you know,
He does the legalese.
he does the bond end of it. What you have is you have an investment banker, Mr. Chris. You have bond counsel and you have local counsel. And those entities work together to get the bond issue completed. I think, just so everybody understands, the important thing is you want to get yourselves in a position to be able to pull the trigger. And if you don't do that, if you don't go through this process, 30 days from now, you'll be starting all over again.
Right.
And that's
the
really
whole
what,
point.
that's the reason there's this urgency. Again, there's no commitments that you owe anybody if after 28 days, 30 days, they come back and say, hey, here's where we are. You don't like it, it's over.
So, or on hold,
Yeah.
at least, yeah.
Even if you give them the perimeter of 750, and he comes back, he says, I got 800, you can say no. Don't do it. You have the ultimate say on whether or not you want to get that savings. But this is a lot of money. Remember, Mr. Schott said, it's a home run. It's not a home run, this is a grand slam, and you don't want to pass it up if you can take advantage of it.
Well, think about it the reverse way. What if we had to cut $100,000 out of our budget? This gives us basically an extra $90,000 to $100,000 a year in our budget without cutting programs for our kids, without cutting staff.
Gives you a
really without
teacher.
making
It gives you a teacher.
It's a teacher a year right there.
Yeah, it's an operating savings because it's not being
A lot of
taken as
library.
cash.
It's a lot of library books, Mr. Doctor. Mrs. Neely, did you have a question?
So in essence, we can, if you come back and we give you a number, 800,000, whatever, and you come back in 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, and it's at 825. You're saying as long as we do not apply for the rating,
That's right.
the bond rating, then we are at no cost at that point.
That is on
Once you
record,
pull
that
that
is-
trigger, then we are at the cost if we pull out after that.
Right, and
Okay.
and that's a great point, because if you do say 800 and we're at 825
Yeah.
3 weeks from now, you may say, no, that's just too close.
Yeah.
That's too close. We could, in the 10 days it takes to get the rating, we could
Right.
be at, something under that. So I think you want to see some cushion over and above that you set tonight. But by setting it tonight, if it is all there 30 days from now, you don't have to reconvene to get it.
Right.
We can just go to market and get it. And it gives us the flexibility to get to the market without having to wait to convene another school board meeting. We can just say,
But
you got it.
You would let us know what that is,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that Mary
Paul's
Beth
gonna know every
can let
day.
all of us know.
We will be in touch with Paul
Okay.
Paul will know every day. He'll
twice
get
a day,
daily pickup.
3 times a day, yeah. He'll know,
This will be a very active time for him.
yeah, yes.
And if some weird thing happened that you, just to clarify, and we pulled the trigger on the bond, and then the market fell before the couple days that everything was taken care of, we still have basically a 3-month window for things to pick
Right,
back up and pull the
exactly.
trigger again.
Exactly. But again, if you set it at 750 and you're only saving 800, again, we know, we don't want to be in that position, and you don't want to be in that position. We don't want to be in a position having you undertake a bond rating and having to come out of pocket for it, no matter what.
Right.
And so we want some margin of error for room for the market, as you do. But when we do go for the rating, we are all over Standard & Poor's to get us that rating ASAP, and we're in the market immediately after that. And by in the market, I mean the day we get the rating, if we can have it in the market the next day, that locks in your rates, you're done. And that's when we would tell Paul, we're done. Here's your savings, met all your minimums, and everything's good. And again, the rating has been considered as part of the cost of issuance that Mr. Bovo is asking about in terms of, having been netted out. So we've already taken it into account. It's not something over and above the 200+ thousand that we indicated on the cost of issuance.
I think it's also important.
Could you go up to the mic, please? So the folks at home can hear?
I just, not to interrupt, but I think it's important to let you know, we're going to get you as much savings as we can get. We had a neighboring school district this year where they set a minimum of $100,000 on like an $8 million bond issue. We ended up with $360. So we're going to get you as much as we can. We're not looking at the minimum, we're looking at the maximum, whatever we can get you, where the market is. So I think it's very important. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. And another point is, lastly, is the cost of issuance don't change as your savings go up or down. So, I mean, they're estimated now, but I think the estimate is going to be pretty close. And if your savings goes up $100,000, it's your $100,000. So, just so you know.
I know it appears that like we need to be sold. I think we all understand that saving close to $1 million is
Yeah.
good, but we also want to give the people of the community a chance to weigh in on this. And since we, only introduced this subject a week ago, I think if there's a
That's why we're
stumbling
having,
block.
that's why we're having such an
That's
extensive
really the
conversation
concern. I don't think
tonight.
anybody here is against starting this process.
By the way, if
And we're
you'd have
looking to
started-
save $100,000 a year.
If you'd have started with, we're gonna save 600,000 and worked up to $1 million, then this would even look better. And when you first mentioned $1 million and now we're at 750, we're thinking, where'd our money go?
Well, you aren't at 750. We're just suggesting
I understand.
You're suggesting
to
that
keep
is
the
our
process going
minimum.
to set that.
But even if we decide to go ahead with this evening, we still have September's meeting. We are not locked into paying anybody anything at this point. People can come to that meeting, say what they have to say, and as a board, if we agree with them, disagree with them, whatever, I mean, we can still pull out. We're not locked into
No,
anything,
but
we're not paying
Who would
anything
have
at
a
that
problem
point.
with us saving $700 to $1 million?
I'm just saying, I don't disagree with you,
I
but, I mean, Jack said, you know, people haven't been able to, I think if we at least get the ball rolling, the September, what is it, 14th meeting or whatever,
Okay.
if the people are, you know, they can come out, they can, we're still at that point.
We're not spending money tonight.
Right,
We say
we're
yes
not-
to you for the public's
Right.
input. We're not spending money tonight.
They'll still have a chance to come out, they'll still have to, you know, be able to say what they have to say. And at that point, as a board, we make our decision on what we want to do, and that's still allowing them, but it's not stopping getting this ball rolling, because the market can be very volatile.
Well, my opinion is that, you know, our top two responsibilities as board members is policy and fiscal responsibility and budget, and it's almost irresponsible to not act on something like this.
Right.
Is it possible if we move forward tonight, set the bottom amount at X amount of dollars, is it conceivable or even possible that we would be at market before September 10th?
I would suggest it would not be possible, just based on the fact that the rating agencies
That would be the one,
up to their,
the one to hold
Right.
it.
above their
Caveat,
heads with
yeah.
applications to do exactly what you're
Okay.
doing,
That's
just
what
because
I'm
of the prevailing
So
market.
even, as Mrs. Neely said, even if we do move forward with this tonight,
Yeah,
we will have, the public will have the opportunity to speak on this before we officially go through and actually commit
And
it.
hopefully in favor of it, I mean,
Right.
who wouldn't
Who
want
wouldn't be?
Who wouldn't
I
want to save
agree,
$1
but
million?
I do think you have to afford that
Yes.
opportunity.
Yes, that's why, you know, but if we wait, then I think we're, you know, really
Yeah,
getting behind
it's-
the eight ball.
it's
What we
Mr.
don't want to
Dice
do is
said-
wait to the detriment of.
That's what I mean, I
Yeah.
think you'll get behind the eight ball, and then it's gonna be not worth it.
All right.
yeah, you want to start the clock.
So
Any
I
other
guess at this
questions?
point, the
Mr.
board
Ritter.
should be
Mr. Ritter has-
deciding the dollar amount, or?
Mr. Ritter has a question.
Sure,
Yeah.
so we had a meeting recently in the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and it hasn't been shown on the television yet, so that people haven't been able to see it.
It is available on the website, just so you know, with our regular board
Excuse
meetings. It is there, okay? Just so
No.
people know.
Now
I'll
you've
upset him.
Mr. Ritter.
Take it
Don't wanna
back.
make
Tell us
him
what's on
angry.
your
I
mind,
just don't
Mr.
want
Ritter.
people to think it's not available. Go ahead, Mr. Ritter.
All right, so please tell me how you say that you don't want people to think it's not available when there's only been 6 hits on it so far, and it's very difficult to find. It's not on the school board directory's website.
Yes,
You
it
have
is.
to
I
put-
had it added this morning by Mr. Brown. It is there.
There you go, okay. So thank you very much for doing that. It also needs to be broadcast on the local cable access stations, and that way people can see the introduction to this question. I would also ask if we could have a way to play this meeting very quickly, get that uploaded so that people can hear what we've discussed tonight as well.
John, I just want to ask you a question, because every meeting you bring up the fact that the board meetings are not shown on cable television. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to get our meetings on cable television. Do you know how to do that so that we can put this issue to rest? Do you know how to get these meetings on cable television?
Sure.
I think we're done with you for the moment, sir.
Get back up
I
to the
feel your pain,
microphone.
but I don't know how to fix
You
that.
know how to put the
I don't know
thing-
how to fix that, but it's on YouTube, it's on the Gateway website. People can go to the library if they can't see it and they want to see it, and they can get it for free, and they go to the gatewayk12.org. They can go under board and go under school board meetings, and that particular meeting is now with our other school board meetings as well. I think it's very important for people to see this and have access to it, and if there's something else that we can do to make that happen, help us to do that, because obviously we're failing in the area of cable television.
We are failing for many years now.
I don't know
in
how
that
to
area.
fix it.
All right, I'll make some formal suggestions, okay?
Anybody else?
But, but your point's still well made. The last meeting was not seen by many people.
Yet.
So-
Yet.
So that point's, I believe, valid. This one obviously is not being seen. So it's one thing to publicly state we want people's input,
But
but
how,
if no one's hearing what we're saying, then it's kind of a hollow gesture, so.
let's find a way to do it.
Mr. Ritter, would you think that going back to broadcasting live as we did, 2 years ago, would make any difference? I thought we stopped doing that a
No,
long
we're
time.
on. We're on.
So we're on?
Yeah,
Okay, I thought we stopped doing that a long time ago.
we did, and then we restated.
I don't
Sorry
remember doing
about
that, okay.
So it's basically going to give people 3 weeks to go on and view this in some avenue. Before the September 10th meeting.
Yeah.
So basically, correct, John? 3 weeks people will have time to get on to see these?
I'm sure it'll be in the paper.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, plus it'll be in the paper. He's here, right? Yeah, there he
If
is.
you think this is gonna be done by September 10th, I think that's not going to happen either. I think you're gonna be seeing it probably September 17th, which is your next meeting. So you're gonna have, it's gonna be hard for these guys to get through this in less than probably close to 28 days.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, people will be able to see these 2 meetings
There's
that
gonna be
John's
things-
saying, so that by the time that September 10th meeting comes, if they want to come and say something,
And they can
because
come
we're
back out
still
here.
within probably the parameter, they're not ready to roll yet. So
And you
that,
can, what you could do is bring them back out on September 10th and say, how are we doing? You could probably bring them back out on September 17th. How are we doing? Because it's at that point, I think, that they'll be at a point where they can say to you, let's make the commitment.
well, it's September 10th, I think it would be crucial that they're here also too, in case the public does have anything that they want to ask, because we're not the professionals in this, or at least I am not. They are, so I'd rather them speak than me. Because,
So can you come back in September?
you know, in case the public has something to ask.
We can be
Is that
here.
an update?
anytime.
They'll be here.
Great.
Matzo, you're here right now. Do you have a question?
You want us here tomorrow night? We can sit back up.
Sure.
Aren't you here every day from now on?
So I guess we have to come up with a number
You
that
understand,
we have to.
they will be talking to Paul more than 2 or 3 times a day, from now on out. And yes, I think you should be looking at a number.
750,000 is your recommendation?
I
750,000?
mean, I don't expect it to be at 750.
That's your
But
rock bottom
and
minimum.
just to protect the district, that's 3.5%, I think, of the savings for 3%. Yeah, that's almost 3.5%. 2% being a minimum benchmark by, and not to say that you would say, give me 2%, we're happy, but you're well above the benchmark. And again, you're protected because there's not going to be a bond issue without your ultimate approval.
Do we
But
have,
this just allows us to move forward with the right people to be able to begin the process, to get you to that point. And when we get you to that point, we'll know what the savings are, probably within a week of being able to actually execute those savings. And that will be a fair amount of, well, it'll be a fair look for you to say, yes, let's go and hurry up.
Motion
No.
to approve items 1 through 9, with number 9 having the minimum savings of $750,000 to the district.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ritter. Is there any more discussion?
Is that clear to you, gentlemen?
Yeah. As long as it's clear to.
yeah,
This is the
All of it.
parameters.
1 to
Yes,
9.
it's the plan.
And that would be the time, if anybody has a different number in mind, if we want to change that, now would be the
It's
time.
both
to do that.
resolutions.
At 750.
Yes.
I would like to see 815,000, because that'll put back the 65,000 from the library books that they cut, since we were talking about the library books. That's, I'm just
Well,
throwing that
we'll
in.
get we will get a chance to amend that before we actually pull the trigger.
Okay, let's try to use another term, pulling the trigger, since of today's situations, like the ball rolling instead of,
Well,
That
we
time.
are getting the ball rolling, so
correct, so.
we need a different, the go time. How about that? For the go time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would just like an even figure of 800,000. I don't like 750.
Anybody else? Anybody object to go to 800?
John likes
I see
750.
815, 815,
In other words,
820,
it's-
825.
Well, help me understand, it's
Going
part of our
once.
discussion.
I like
It's better
750
to have
because
the,
that's our council's recommendation.
isn't it better to have the floor be lower so that it can move up, rather than set the floor higher, so that we would
Yes,
have to back down?
it is.
So therefore,
Because you-
750 seems to be lower than 800 or 850, right? So it'd be better to have a lower floor, so I'm in favor of 750.
I agree with you, Mr. Ritter.
It doesn't mean that 750 is going to do it for you, right?
Exactly, right.
But at least it allows the process to get you to that point. in that decision.
Thank you.
All right.
That's all.
Oh,
Let's roll call with 750.
This is 1 through 9.
And the motion was Rick McIntyre and John Ritter seconded.
Yes.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mrs. Neely.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
I'm gonna vote aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
I accept number 7, I'm gonna go no.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Okay, all motions carried.
Was number 7 anything to do with?
No.
No.
It was about minimum savings.
Number 7 was our tri-cog land bank notice of intent to acquire.
You need stuff signed
properties.
tonight. I have signature pages. Okay.
All right,
Vice President.
Board secretary.
go back to our agenda.
Whatever you want to do.
We have 2 more items on our agenda, and then we'll wrap it up. Resolutions by board members, if there are any, there are none on the agenda. Okay, seeing none, would be comments from residents on non-agenda items? Anybody in the audience wish to speak on anything? No? Lastly, we have administrative and board member reports. Mrs. Bumgarner, do you have anything?
I just want to wish everyone a safe and successful school year.
Thank you. Dr. Chaky?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Rossi? Mrs. Crump?
Yes, we want to announce that we are going to have a volunteer clearance workshop on September 17th at the high school library from 3 to 6. We will advertise that on the website. It's to assist anyone who needs help in getting their clearances now that school started and parties are coming up, and we'll be there to help you do that.
That's great. Thank you. Mr. Ritter?
Nothing?
Mrs. Warning?
A couple of things. Mrs. Crump, the clearances, are the board members required to have theirs updated also?
Every 5 years, yes.
Okay, so we will be coming up for that. Okay. I just want to wish everyone a good school year. Mr. Brown, thank you for your crew for getting the schools looking great. Worked really hard there ahead of time, and everything looks good. Good luck to all the fall sports. We have our kickoff Friday against Mount Lebanon. Come out, cheer your football team on, and a special thank you to the Quasics. They gave us a photo and a thank you on our support, the school district supporting them, and I will give this to Mrs. Isha so she can put it in the records. But we're here to support all our groups, and they've done a lot for the community, so again, thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Lobson?
Nothing this evening.
Mr. Bova?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Dice? Sure.
On Monday, we welcomed back faculty and staff and had a wonderful opening day ceremony. The afternoon and also today was filled with in-service activities. And tomorrow's clerical day. Students arrive Thursday morning, and looking forward to a wonderful 2019-20 school year.
Yes, we're going. Mr. McIntyre?
I just wanted to thank the staff at Gateway Middle School. I recently attended the orientation day with my daughter who's entering 7th grade. Principal, Mr. Talley, and everybody, all the staff that was present did a fantastic job. Welcoming the kids, getting them ready for a pretty big transition from one building to another. So just want to thank them for all their hard work. And that's all.
Mr. Rotman?
Just want to wish all the faculty and students coming in a good school year. They do great work. I'm also looking forward to new artwork, as always. I do encourage the class president to come and speak at the meetings a little more often. You don't really see it on this agenda, but on the full agenda, we do have a spot reserved for the students. So please come. And as for the senior class here, you know, you're gonna be excited about going to college, trade school, wherever. But just take a moment when you can, just take it all in with your last year, everything you've accomplished. That's once you move on, that's it. So good luck, and that's it.
Great advice, Mr. Rotman. Mr. Williams?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mrs. Neely?
Just wish everybody a successful school year, and also please pay attention to the school buses. You know, abide by them. There's, you know, youngsters and getting on and what have you, so just please pay attention to that.
Yes. That's it. Anything for transportation, Mrs. Isha?
I have nothing.
No.
already.
I want to thank all the guidance counselors for working with all the schedule changes that they've probably been jumping through hoops on, including the ones that helped me. Thank you very much, Mr. Brass. And with that, I seek a motion.
Before you seek a motion,
Yes.
I would like to have executive session for personnel reasons, right after. if we can.
Sure. I'll seek a motion to adjourn, and we will adjourn into executive session for personnel, and we will not be returning.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.